I get a lot of questions about classroom management, and today I'm going to go over some of my tips for helping students manage their behavior at the classroom level, but also at the school level. I'm going to give you some tips for the classroom and also as an assistant principal. Let's get started. All right, so I get a lot of specific questions about classroom management. So someone will spell out, their grade level, what exactly the students are doing. But I want you to think a little bit more generally when it comes to classroom management and think of restorative practices. Now, I know we're living in a world right now where everything is like, stop going easy on these kids and they need to work harder and all that. And I agree, working hard is very, very important. But when it comes to discipline, in my experience, and I've done it all, I've done them punitive, write the referrals, put them in ISS, the whole thing, to restorative practices where I'm actually talking to students, figuring out what they like, figuring out how to get them to like school. Those are things that work a lot better, the restorative practices. So let me give you an example at the classroom level. So inevitably every year I would have several students in different classes who were, let's just say, rambunctious. I taught intensive reading along with science. So I had my general ed students. I had students who were on IEPs for behavior. I also had students who were in the Cambridge program, which is like an IB program, which is like high level. And some of those students were in intensive reading too. I had kids who were in the IB program who couldn't pass the reading test in 10th grade and had to do intensive reading just for a year in order to pass it. I've had it all, right? And every student is different. Students have strengths in all areas. I'd have students who had such a difficult time in the classroom, but then I would learn on the weekend they had their own business and they were killing it and they were making tons of money as a 17-year-old kid with a pressure washing business. So, you have to understand that students might be acting a certain way in your classroom, but that's not who they are all the time, right? And one of the things that I found helpful for my students who could not sort of sit still or follow the rules all the time was to make them my helper, keep them busy. And these students typically make the best helpers, all right? They don't do really well sitting in the desk, writing notes and all of that. But they do well in passing out papers, making sure this is cleaned or that is cleaned. Finding tasks for these students to do really makes things better in the classroom for them, for sure, and for you and for others. So find something that your rambunctious students can do to be those helpers for you. And I'm telling you, even the kids who give you the hardest time, maybe the ones that you think, oh my God, this kid must hate me. She must just want to make my day miserable. If you go up to her and say, hey, I need your help with something, I am telling you, 9 times out of 10, even if she hates your guts, she's going to go, okay, what do you need help with? And she will help you. Even a kid who you think is like just the worst kid, is bouncing off the walls. If you say, hey, can you give me some help? He will say, sure, what do you need? I mean, they will drop anything to help you. You just have to funnel that energy into something. And there is something they can help you with. Delegate something. Delegate something you think is too much for them. And they will probably 9 times out of 10 do it. Reorganize it. They just need a task. All right. Now, when it comes to an AP, being an assistant principal, I was the assistant principal of discipline for part of the alphabet in my school. We had about 1,200 students, I believe. No, I'm sorry, 1,700 students. 1,700 students at the school. And I had a portion of the alphabet. It changed each year. You get A through L the first year, and you get M through Z the next year. They kind of broke it up that way. It didn't really matter. But I would see repeat offenders all the time coming in my door. Referral again for being disrespectful. Referral again for not showing up. Referral for this and that. And it's the same kids over and over again. And what I learned from meeting with these students is that these kids are not bad kids. They just can't get along with a certain teacher or whatever. And one thing I learned from my principal when a student comes into my office, always pull their grades and always pull their attendance. We're not just talking about the referral. We need to be talking about the whole student, and the attendance will tell you a story and the grades will tell you a story along with what's going on in the referral, right? And that's data. He was teaching me how to gather data before I make any decisions or make any assumptions. He was really good at that. And what I found was that there were usually some areas where the student could improve in their grades or in their attendance. And so I'd have to process the referral because it is a legal document and the teacher needs support. And so we needed to discuss the behavior. But then I would shift the focus to what was going on with the grades and the attendance. And I would talk with the student about how to improve in those areas. What's your plan? What can we do? What's going on with this grade? How can we get this from a D to a C or a D to a B, right? What do you think you can do? You think you can take it to a B? And the kid would say, yeah, I mean, I could do that. Oh, really? Okay, great. So I'm going to have you meet me back here in 2 weeks. And I would pull up my calendar, and typically my computer, like you could kind of see it, you know, like if you were sitting at my desk, like you couldn't see everything, but you could see that I was on my calendar. And I would show the student that I was putting his name or her name into my calendar. And I would tell the student, I'm a very busy person. I am putting you in my calendar. I expect you to be here. I'm going to write you a pass. You know, maybe it's I wouldn't do it during the class that they got written up in, because then the teacher will think, oh, you're pulling them out of class to come hang out with you in the office. Do it for a different time, okay? Because you don't want to snub the teacher, all right? That student needs to learn to get along with that teacher. But you are taking an interest in the student, and you tell the student, all right, during 5th period at whatever time, here's a pass. 2 weeks from now, I want you to come to my office. And make them put it in their Google Calendar, have them take out their phones and start to teach them. You know, they might already be using their Google Calendar. Some of them are very good with their time management outside of school, right? So you have them put it in their calendar that they are coming to see you at that time, and you tell them the expectation of what you want. Within 2 weeks, I want this grade to be a C. I want no referrals from this teacher, and I want to talk about what our strategies are moving forward once we get to that goal. 99.999% of the time. In fact, I can't even remember when it didn't work. When the student came back to see me in 2 weeks, the grade was up, the behavior was better. Why? Because I'm taking an interest in them, and I am talking about goals in behavior for sure, because they're getting written up and they need to figure that out, but also in their overall, human existence, their grades, their attendance. And they feel like they can do that for you when you take an interest in them. Those are some restorative practices that really, really do help. I have used them myself. The making appointments for students who were the quote worst kids on campus, they weren't the worst kids on campus, but they had the most referrals. That really helped. Now, were they perfect after that because they met with me and we went over everything and everything was all good? No. Did I have to remind them in the hallways how to not be acting a certain way? Sure. Did I have to walk up in the hallway and say, hey, remember, we have a meeting on Tuesday and you know what I expect? Yes, ma'am, right? They would come back and they would do that. But it didn't mean they were perfect students afterwards, but it improved. And by throwing kids into ISS day in and day out, you are not improving the situation. As teachers, writing students up every time, I'm writing you a referral. The referral is supposed to be, oh my God, like the worst thing ever, right? If you're writing 20 referrals a day, it is not the worst thing ever. It becomes a normal thing, right? So if you can do some of these restorative practices before the extreme, throwing the kid out of the class, giving them out of school suspension or whatever, I promise you that these things worked. I've used them myself. They take practice. They take consistency, but they do work, and I hope they help you. Let me show you where to get more resources if you're interested in classroom management or other things regarding the teaching practice or the leadership practice. All right, so just head over to KathleenJasper.com. Under study guides, we have 2 for the leadership exam. Our SLL A6990 is one of our best programs ever. People love it. But under online courses, we have teacher resources. I have Teach a Survival Guide for New Educators, The Confident Classroom for classroom management, and you can bundle some of these together. Beyond that, I also have Ed Leadership Interview Prep, and we have SLLA 6990 test prep courses. That will also help you. The SLLA 6990 for the test prep is awesome for a leadership course. And we have a ton of audio courses. We also have free webinars on everything from classroom management to school leadership, whatever you need. All right, that's it for today. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, or if you tried any of these practices and they work for you, or if you tried them and they sort of work and maybe you need some more advice, throw those in the comments below and we will do our best to get back to you. Thank you so much for watching and have an awesome day.